We'll just start with today's session. So just a quick introduction about myself. So myself Anirudh Kale. I'm CEO and founder of Anti-Infosec. So here we are today to discuss bug bounty. So keep me bugging whenever you need any questions. I'll try to cover all your questions in this 30-40 minute section. And uh, if by some reason there is a issue with this or the some questions are not answered, we'll answer it later in the question and answer session. Yeah, Shubham, we'll see if the recording can be available. I'll let you know once the session is done. Yeah, so first I'll start with introducing Anti-Infosec. So Anti-Infosec is basically a pure cybersecurity company. It's working in three verticals, as you know, training, research, and services. So in training, we give various type of trainings in cybersecurity, like for VAPT, then web application security. Then we have different other courses like SOC. Then in research, we do different research on different new things coming into the market. So it can be anything like APIs or something old, but like XSS, but we need to do something different into it. So our research community people work on that and do different things in cybersecurity domain. And in services, we provide various services like it may be VAPT, then website testing, then red teaming, mobile security, and many things. Okay, so this was a basic introduction. Coming towards today's agenda of bug bounty. So how many of the people here are aware of what bug bounty is? You can just bug in into chat fast, or we can move forward. Anything? Yes. How many of you are aware of bug bounty and what it is? Okay, so as I can see, most of the people are saying yes, but still, you people were here to see what bug bounty is. Means you are facing some issue somewhere, right? So can anyone tell me what pain area you are facing in bug bounty? Okay, as Siddharth is saying how we can choose the right program. Yeah, I'll let you know that in this session, Siddharth. Okay, so starting with the first thing, what is bug bounty? Okay, bug bounty is a program. Yeah. Guys, if possible, please mute your mic so that I can continue. Thank you. So bug bounty basically is a program where you get rewards for finding new bugs.
प्याज काट बोलते हैं टमाटर भी ले टमाटर भी ना और लहसुन खत्म हो रहा है
This is not gonna solve things. I think I'm gonna mute everyone else. Okay. If you have any questions, please raise your hands or ping me. I'll let you know. Okay. So as you know, bug bounty is a reward given to a bug found on any platform. It can be any platform like HackerOne, Open Bug Bounty, Bug Crowd, or anything. Okay. So what is a bug bounty program? A bug bounty program is any program or website which is a deal or which offers you with different rewards on finding any bug in the website. The bugs can be like a simple bug in OWASP top 10 or a misconfiguration or a server error or even an SPF. Anything which deals with the functionality of the website can be a bug and which can be reported to the bug bounty program. So bug bounty program is something or somewhere you can report a bug which you have found on a website. Okay. Then there are responsible disclosure programs. So as you know, most of the bug bounty platforms like HackerOne or Bugcrowd or Open Bug Bounty, like these are the famous ones. But most of the websites, what they have is they don't have that much money or they don't have that much big websites to so that they can host their things on these big platforms, right? So what they do is they host their own responsible disclosure policy or responsible disclosure program in which they host the thing on their own website and you can search it on their website and just find the bug and report to their responsible disclosure team, right? It is not that only small companies or small websites have responsible disclosures. Companies like Zomato, even companies like Google nowadays have responsible disclosures where they offer you big bounties which are like $300, $500 to even $3,000 to $5,000 for a basic bug like excesses or misconfiguration or anything, right? You just need to show them the right bug and they'll give you the bounty. So for your kindest information, responsible disclosure programs are also there in our government websites. Like we can also deal for our responsible disclosures in our government websites. So we can help our government or help our Indian system to improve their websites by reporting their bugs to responsible disclosures, and they also appreciate you by sending you an email or responding you to your bug that the bug is valid and thank you for helping your country to grow or help you in this. Yeah, happy. I think you can hear it now. Okay. Let me know if I'm still not audible. So most of the people have question, can I start bug bounty? So my answer will be yes. So there is a misconception nowadays that you need to be a computer student or you need to be a pro into programming where you can start into bug bounty, right? But this is just a misconception. There is no need. I have students from mechanical background, from BCA, MCA background, from commerce background who do bug bounty. The bug and bug bounty is same. Snigdha, no, the bug is different and bug bounty is different. Bug is something which is like you find a misconfiguration or I'll say something which is not working properly on a website. That is called a bug, and the money you get in the reward for finding that bug is called as bug bounty. So both things are different. Yeah. So most of the people have misconceptions and that they need to be a good coder and they can't start with it. But as I told you, most of them can. As when I started, I was not a good coder. You don't need to be a good coder to get into cybersecurity. So as you can see on the screen, most of the students have this grudge that they are from non-technical background, they can't do it. But no, that's not the thing. Yeah, Dinesh, I'm going to answer your question how to start with bug bounty. So how to start with how the bug bounty program works will solve your question of how to start with bug bounty. Okay, to start with bug bounty, basically what you need to do is you need to first get aware of basic bugs which you like. You can go for OWASP top 10. OWASP is the open web application security portal where you can find the top 10 vulnerabilities which are reported by the researchers of the whole world. What is the people from whole world come on OWASP, they report the bugs they have found in a span of 1 to 3 years. And what OWASP does it makes a list of a top 10 bugs which they have found, right? So for starting, you can refer OWASP top 10. This is a guideline you can say where in web application security that can be OWASP top 10 is the website. OWASP. You can just Google it and you'll find the top 10. Yeah. So you can just see the top 10. The top 10 are like injections, then excesses, then security misconfigurations, then many things. There are top 10 vulnerabilities found in last 4 years. The latest one is of 2017, and the one will be released in this year or next, maybe. Okay. How to start with bug bounty? Okay. So the first thing which in bug bounty is bug hunters. So people like us who are aware of what bugs are or how to find bugs are the first thing into bug bounty or bug hunters. You have heard about people like Jason Haddock, Stock, and different people. Even when you hear to what Stock says, is Stock was not a bug bounty hunter actually. He visited India for for an event of Nullcon, and then he met with some people, right? So he was not a bug hunter, but he found about a tool called bug. His favorite tool is Bugsuit. So he told that he found about a tool named Bugsuit, and that attracted him to bug bounty. So there can be different things for different people to get attracted to bug bounty, but you need to find first what is a good tool or what is a good bug what you know. If the bug is done, if you know the bug very well, go for that bug. and then find that bug on different websites. Okay. So Jerry, can we refer to OWASP top 10 web test guide? Yes, Jerry, that is the best thing to refer nowadays. The thing is, it is becoming a guideline for the web application security thing. Most of the things companies are not aware of how VAPT is done or how things are done, but they know about OWASP, and they can the OWASP what they have done is they have made their guidelines as a human readable. The people who are not in IT background or not in bug bounty platform can also understand what they want to. Okay, so what the nowadays what company says is, can you let us know if can you test our website based on the OWASP testing guide? So you can definitely refer this testing guide to move further. So next part is the companies like as I said, Google has its own bug bounty program, then HackerOne, Open Bug Bounty, Bugcrowd, many of them. Yeah, there are many websites. Dishank, I'll cover it in the further part. Then the third thing, as I said, bug bounty platforms. There are various platforms, as you know. I'll let you know about them in the further slides. Then responsible disclosures program. As I told you some time back, responsible disclosure program is something where your company do not need to have an account on any bug bounty platform, but they can host their own platform. They do not need to every time give you bug bounties, but they can reward you in the form of like swags or goodies or t-shirts, or there are various ways of gifting you. Using OWASP and Kali Linux Hydra is safe. Yeah, Nikhil, using OWASP and Kali Linux Hydra is very safe. It is the most needed thing. If you are not using Kali Linux, then it's very difficult to find bugs into the website. Okay, so Kali Linux is like, as you know, it's Kali Linux is the flavor of Linux, and what it that does it is basically covers more than 300 tools used for doing VAPT or different things. Okay, so Kali is the most thing, and Hydra is used for reverse engineering. So if you are working something on reverse engineering, you can. Yeah, Jerry, Hall of Fames would be done in the both of the things. You can it can be found in bug bounty platforms as well as responsible disclosures, and also company like Google have their own Hall of Fame list. I'll show you how it looks in the further slides. Don't worry. Okay, so these are the most used bug bounty platforms. Okay, the Open Bug Bounty, then Bugcrowd, HackerOne, Synack, Hack'n'Proof, Integrity, Bounty Factory, Bug Bounty Japan, and Anti-Hack. These are just the famous ones which I'm telling, but there are much more than this. Yeah, Nihal has a question stating that, sir, the chances of the browser will share our details. No, there is not. Even if the browser shares your details, you're doing this thing as per their permission, right? So whenever a program hosts their thing on a bug bounty platform, they give you proper permissions of testing their website. Okay, so you don't get into anything illegal thing. So you're doing everything legally as the website has given you the permission to do so. Okay, as Jerry is saying, why do companies not pay for duplicates? The research may have spent a lot of time. Yeah, that's what it is, Jerry. When you are doing a bug bounty program, they don't hire you for it, right? It's like you find a bug and you get paid for it. And what happens is most of them get duplicates as someone is the most reason of getting duplicate is someone is faster than you, right? That's why you get duplicate and then you don't get paid for it. And it will be not fair for the others for getting paid for duplicates, because uh, in the community, you know, as it is, the community is very important in cybersecurity. So there is a possibility that I'll report a bug and maybe I'll tell you about that bug and you also report it and you get paid for the duplicates. So that's the reason why companies don't pay for duplicates. As there is a possibility that there can be a chain of people who can claim the same bug and get paid for the same duplicate bug. So that's the reason they don't pay for the duplicates. Yeah. So Dark Aqua Aura is asking, what is a POC? So POC is a proof of concept. Right answer, White Hacker. So what POC means? POC, whenever you find a bug, if you don't mention a proper POC there, then your bug, there is a possibility that they'll not approve your bug, or your bug will not be a valid bug. It can be an informative bug. But in POC, there is a POC can be in the format of screenshots or a video sharing or anything. It is basically a walkthrough of how you have found the bug, and what exactly the vulnerability or the bug shows you, right? So if you show them in the form of video or screenshots, so they can't deny that that bug is there, right? So it is a full proof that you have found that bug, and they need to pay you for that. Okay. So as Myntra has an access still present, but they are marked as duplicate. Yeah, they don't have time to maybe fix that bug, so they are still saying it a duplicate. Most of the companies like StationX and different things do it purposely. Like most of the research companies in cybersecurity purposely keep some bugs in their websites for the people like us to find it. And if we find that bug, what they do is they give us scholarships or different things. So they can have a different agenda towards it, but not sure. Okay, I'll move towards the slide now and continue with the questions later. Sure. I think I've answered the question until now. So most of the questions being asked is or can be, how can we start with the bug bounty, right? So how can we start? The major question, as I said for previously also, you don't need to be a pro into hacker. You just need to know how the website works and what is the pain area in the website. Okay, so if you know, if the like I'll give you an example of WhatsApp. Some years back or some time back, there was a feature in WhatsApp that if you do a video call to a person, then if you press a button of sorry, if you do an audio call to a person, and if you press the audio button, video button, sorry, then that audio call used to get converted into video call. That can be looked into as a feature, but some people found it as a bug. They said that the permission of the user was not being taken while converting the audio call to the video call, and that's the reason that this feature then got converted into bug, and the person reporting that bug also got bounty for it, right? So it is the approach how you look towards it. So it's not that you need to code first, you just need to develop an approach that how to find the bug, and then you can go forward that which kind of bug. There are two types of approach, I can say. Most of the people found it good that they're good at a specific bug, right? So for example, if I'm good at XSS, what I'll do is I'll pick a bug called XSS, and I'll try to find that same bug in each and every website or each and every platform which I visit. So that can be approach to get started with bug bounty. Or the second approach can be uh, do your basics clear, get at least OWASP top 10 done, and then select a platform. It can be any platform, and then hunt for each and every bug on that website or that platform. That can be a second approach. So it depends on people to people. Especially, yeah, Siddharth, you are right. Stocks approach is also the same. It's 90% people in bug bounty, the approach are same, because what happens is when you keep on looking for the similar bug on the different website, what happens is you are being aware of that bug. You know how the website is responding for the specific bug. So every time when you find that on different website, you are aware that how will it will respond, and if not, you can move forward towards it. Yeah, NCIIPC doesn't pay for reported bugs because that's a social cause, Jerry. So we are the people in India reporting it as a social cause, and that's why they don't pay for it. They're just a responsible disclosure program, and most of the responsible disclosures program don't pay for their bounty, as they are not called bug bounty platforms. Yeah, so that's the reason they do not pay for it. Okay, so moving forward to the uh, how to how technical things, basic technical things to get started with. Okay, so what basics you should need to get started with bug bounty or web application security? Yeah, JD, I agree with your thing that hall of shame should be given, but currently that procedure has not been made in the by Indian government. But let's see, we research people can get into touch with them and ask them to do something like that, and maybe they'll do something for the researchers too. Yeah, coming back to the presentation, the basic things to get started with HTTP and TCP/IP model. So whenever you are dealing with a website travels or sends or receives its traffic on basis of HTTP. So you should be aware of how HTTP works, how TCP/IP model works to get started with the bug bounty or web application security. So you should know the basics of HTTP and TCP/IP model. Then basic Linux command line. Nowadays, as you know, Kali Linux 2020 second version has also released, and it's mostly similar to what Windows is. So don't need to be that much command savvy, but basic commands like how to ping a server, how to get information from it, how to find different domains or different things. The commands like this at least should be known to you. Then is web application technologies. You should be aware about the basic web application technologies like PHP, HTML. You don't need to code into that, but if you need to find a bug or change your code in HTML or PHP or similar thing, you need to at least understand the bug, right? Understand the code, how it has been designed. So for that reason, you should at least know the basic how the technologies work, like what kind of input you will give to the website and what kind of output you will get on that technology. So if you a different output you get from that, so there is a guarantee that there is something fishy into it and you can find a bug into it. Yeah, as Nishank's question is, any government website they're allowed to found bug. Every government website you can find a bug, and the same single way to report it is NCIIPC. Yeah, I'll just unmute one of them. I think Nihal has a question. Yeah, Nihal. Yeah, you both raised your hand. I think you have a question. Okay. We just need to mute them again. I don't think they answered. Yeah. Coming back to thing is web application technologies. The next thing you need to focus is networking basics. As I told you that you should be aware about HTTP, TCP/IP model. Similarly, you should be aware of network basics. You should be aware of basic ports, that which kind of traffic has been traveling from which port and then coming in from which port. But if you are aware with the network basics, you will be able to understand by which port the traffic is coming, and on the basis of that, you will be able to uh, plan your bug. Means you know if a specific type of packets come through specific type of network or specific type of port, then you can craft your attack based on it and then attack on it accordingly. As I said, the same thing as web technology, learn basics of HTML, PHP, JavaScript. Most of the websites out there, front end is based on HTML, PHP, and JavaScript. So if it's based on any one of this, there is a guarantee that you will find an SQL or a XSS or a similar bug in that website. Just the need is you need to craft your proper payload or a proper thing. Yeah, what to read? Most of the people have this question that what to read, right? So I'll get to this. I'll give you some books or some YouTube channels which you need to follow. So these are the books. We can note it down or anything. These are the books. At least you can to get started with this. You can web application will help you to start with web application. Then there is a hackers playbook. Then if you're doing good, want to do something in mobile application hackers and mobile application, then you can refer mobile application hackers handbook and similar things. I'll just take a minute so that you can note it down. Yeah, how to find the nmap that the port is malicious. Yeah, Dishank, this is something off topic. I'll try to answer this in a Q&A section or maybe after this session. Yeah, JD, I'll try to share the recording too. No worries. I hope you have written this. We move forward. These are the YouTube channel. As most of them said, they prefer NahamSec or maybe Jason Edix. They are also good to get started with bug bounty. You can definitely refer Jason Edix or NahamSec. But these two are what I'll suggest are the best channels on YouTube currently. Yeah, Lenovo, you can get most of these books online for free, but if you want to learn something very good, then you need to pay for it, right? So anything for free is not that good for the things. But all these books are available online. You can buy it or you can have a soft copy of it. I prefer having a hard copy where you can mark things and move forward. But there are preferences of different people. Yeah, moving forward. Real-time resources. What I'll say is most of the people you need to, if you're not good in if you're not good in bug bounty and you want to start into this, start following these 5 things. Okay, these are the real-time resources which will give you a very good exposure towards bug bounty. Most of the people don't know that Twitter actually has this feature. Like, you need to follow some hashtags. I'll tell you which some hashtags to follow. But if some hashtags are being followed, then as if you'll check some security researchers phone and Twitter, you will see that every message or every post he is seeing is related to hacking. Okay, so most of the people in this thing or in this firm nowadays, what they do is they follow Twitter. So anything like I am researching on something and I found a bug, what I'll do is I'll report to the team. At the same time, I'll report it on the Twitter too. So what happens is most of the researchers or new people to this can refer to this bug and also learn from it. So if I found a new payload, what I'll do is I'll post it on Twitter, and the people on Twitter will also get references towards it and try applying that same payload to the websites which they have. So in this way, the community is helping each other, right? In cyber security, the community is very important. Looking toward this only, we have started our research community, in which the community comes together and learns various things together, right? The second thing is GitHub. Most of the people know that GitHub is a repository where you can store your code. But apart from this, as we all are hackers, you all know, what hackers do is hackers store their hacking repositories or payloads or different things on GitHub. As you know, GitHub is open to all. It is a resource sharing thing. So anyone in the world can refer to that GitHub repository and then extract the things from there. So the researchers like us, what they do is they post their researches, they post their payloads or anything on GitHub repository, and it is easy to download to anyone in the world. So you just need to go to that URL and download that. You just need to that in nowadays in Kali it's become so easy that simple command like git clone will give you the whole repository into your system. Just need to run the Python program or run the code to get the same thing towards you. It's becoming that easy. Yeah, anyone doing that annotation, please stop. Otherwise, others are suffering due to you, and I'll need to kick you out of this session. Okay, sorry. Coming back to this, then Medium. As you know, most of the blogs are being posted on Medium. So what happens is in Medium, as you know, most of the bloggers are focus bloggers post their hacking articles on Medium, where you can find your right blog or right thing to get to continue with hacking. So most of the researchers researchers in these days are being posted on Medium. Most of the companies also post their research thing on Medium, where you can find that how to find a bug or how to get into it. So if I found a new bug, maybe it can be something in XSS, and I'll have done some research into it. I need to write a blog. So nowadays, it's a technical blog and then it's a cybersecurity blog. What I'll do is I'll try to post it on Medium, where I have more focused audience that like cybersecurity researchers who's going to refer towards it. Right. Next one is activity. The HackerOne activity is something to look for. I'm going to show how HackerOne activity looks. Just a second. I share my screen. Yeah. So guys, this is how HackerOne activity looks like. So anyone who wants to start hacking in HackerOne, this is I'll show you the how HackerOne works. Okay. So as you see, this is a different activity. In activity, what they do is basically you need to see that which kind of bug is found on which website and what the severity of it and what is the amount paid for that bug. Okay. Sorry. As you can see, it's reflected excesses being deposited by Puzzle. You can see his reputation down at 377. He has got $1,000 bounty. Okay, moving down, you can see that admin offline smuggling fraud, then excesses, stored excesses is found in is Visma Public. Then there's a bug in NordVPN. Okay, they have not disclosed the amount yet. In HackerOne itself, there's a bug in HackerOne itself where a customer private program was disclosed in email, and he's got $7,500 for it. Wow. So this is how the activity looks like. I'll show you one of the bug, how in activity you can see the further things. As you can see, this reflected accesses. Okay. So a person has reported a reflected accesses in a Glassdoor's website. Okay. He has given the asset here, the domain which he has used, and also stated the kind of bug or weakness which he have found. Okay. So it was a 5.6 or medium severity bug. So the impact of it was medium, and he has been the report resolved. It has been resolved, and the bounty he has got is $1,000. So just multiply it by 70, and you'll get to know how much you get. Yeah. So this is so what activity looks like. When you find a bug, you need to give a proper POC. Most of the people had a question what a POC looks like. Okay. So as we move down, you can see how a POC looks like. Okay. So it's given a summary that how a reflected accesses he has been found, on which this URL he has found it. This is the affected in scope thing. Then the parameter, this was the parameter on which he found. Someone was asking me about the browser, so you see he has also mentioned the browser, and this is one part of POC, right? So step to reproduce. So by looking at the POC, basically the person who is finding or the bug you're reporting the bug to gets the awareness of how severe the bug is, and he can reproduce that bug similarly as you produced. If he's being able to reproduce that bug looking towards that POC, then your bug is a valid bug and you'll get paid towards it. Yeah, there is encoding. You don't need to recognize it at this point, Siddharth, as because you can just copy paste it into this. Anyone looking towards it can tell that it's a URL encoding. But anyone, as we are working into this, but you can just copy paste this thing into your browser, and maybe you will get in a search engine, and you'll immediately get to know that which thing is into this. Okay. Yeah, Aditya has a question that should a POC be in the form of document or a video? It basically, it's good if you have a video that you can show them a proper walkthrough that you have done this and you have not found any what I'll say a simpler way or a backdoor to get into it. Means actually the bug is right which you have found, and it is not something which you are not reported. But if you are unable, if it is not in all cases it's not feasible to give video, then you can give something like this, or even a document or screenshot is okay. Then this exploitation, he has shown that how he has inserted the code into it. Yeah. So this is the payload he has used, and then he has showed a screenshot too, which will state that, see, you can see this URL. He has used this a simple XSS script, and he has generated this XSS pop-up. And as you can see, for a simple XSS pop-up and for a simple one line of what else exploit, he has gone $1,000, right? So see the severity of this. So as you can in HackerOne, they have a procedure that once you report a bug, someone will see that if the bug is valid. So they'll track the request. Then someone will go through it and ask you that is that bug okay? So then he rewarded $750 to Parcel. Then ask him to resolve it. It is being asked to resolve because if you say that you don't resolve it, they'll not resolve it. So whenever you feel in HackerOne on any platform that you're not getting what you're supposed to get, then you can say them that no, don't report, don't resolve my bug, as that I'm not fine with what you're doing. Like similar to the thing which Parcel done, he showed them the same thing on a different page, and then after that they rewarded him, added a $250 bonus as an appreciation, and then he got $1,000 thing. As simple as that. Okay. So, but I don't know that if the website is hosting a bug bounty program, or what kind of bounties they have, what is in scope, what is outside scope. To find that, what you can do is you can find for the company in the bug bounty platform. So as you can see, it is Glassdoor. I'll just go on the website to see Glassdoor. Okay, so this is Glassdoor's dashboard, where you can see the average bounty they provide, the assets in scope, the reports that are being resolved these days. Okay, and when you go forward, you will see that how much bounty do you get for reporting what severity or what level of bug. Okay, so if your bug is a low priority, you will get at least $100, similar to the medium, high, and 2,500. As you saw, Pazil was rewarded to $750 for a medium thing, right? So this is just a benchmark or a minimum thing which you will get. But if you report in a proper POC, then definitely you can get more than what this has been stated here. Okay, so these are the policies, disclosure policies, that what are things are allowed, what things are not. Then this comes the scope, which domains are in scope, and what kind of rewards do they give to the people. Yeah, so they have told that what is being needed to report a bug. So everything, so people, you can see everything is here in their program. What do you need to do is just do this, fill in the blanks and find a bug, proper bug, and send them a screenshot. It is as easy to get a bug bounty. Most of the students I have enrolled for the web application security course, or the uh, secured cyber certified cybersecurity course, when they come to us, they are like, we are commerce background, and we want to get into bug bounty, but we can't. So that's we tell them this thing, that is nothing difficult into it. Yes, you just need to be good with some bugs, and what you can do is wonders. As I give you an example, as Siddharth is also saying about stock, right? Stock is someone till last year, like 2018 December, he was in India and he was not aware of bug bounty, but still now he is one of the top researchers, right? So you can be one of them. So that's not a big deal. Okay, moving towards our topic, as we are also drifting away from it. The next thing which we say is blogs. Okay, so most of the researchers post their own blogs to state what it is. We at Infosec are also starting a what I'll say, we have made it mandate for most of the students and the research community thing to write blogs. If you are doing research, it is necessary to validate your research in the form of blogs. If you write blogs, technical blogs, then only you will get recognition in the cybersecurity company, and the blog or the research which you have done can get validated, right? So I also tell to our students, when they enroll or when they start with their thing after doing some bug bounty, that start writing blogs. Writing blogs is a good habit, by which what we'll do is you'll get a recognition first of all. Secondly, the research which you have done, you'll get validated from the people all over the world. That blogs is something which the people all over the world read. Most of the researchers, it may be, as we are speaking from long time about Stock or Jason Hedges or Ben, anyone, they still read blogs of the newbies, or the even what we call as noobs. What happens is, most of the time the approach these people have is different than what others have. Is it true that SQL map is difficult to track? No, no, Niyal, it's just simple. If it's as simple as any other bug. If you know that the website has an SQL database, then only you will perform a SQL on it, right? When to perform SQL map has everything in help. So it is very so that's not nothing, not a thing. It's not difficult. Not always, Jerry. It is not always necessary that you should use document.domain. Document.domain is only necessary in some websites. As you have seen that we had a website, I don't remember the exact name of it, but XSS, we had a practice lab where we were not able to find a pop-up or get an option if you have not done it through a document.domain thing. You can just mention document.cookies or anything, anything you can do into it. Yeah, subdomain takeover is something where, as I showed in just a second, I'll go back to this. Sorry, I'm with the screen. Yeah. Subdomain takeover, as you can see, I'll just move down. As you can see, there are multiple domains here, right? So in these multiple domains, you need to check that there is a possibility that there may be some subdomains, and then you can take over them. Okay. Moving forward, as I said, hashtags to follow, right? So when you go on Twitter, these are some hashtags which you can follow. Which websites give best access script? Or the best website is GitHub, right? Go to GitHub. You'll get everything in GitHub. Just search it in the research thing. You will get what I'll say repositories of JSON edX, Ben, Mine, or all researches there on GitHub, and you'll find all best access scripts there. Yeah. Then moving forward, rules of bug bounty, right? So most of the people, as they were asking me previously also, that how to start with bug bounty or how to get into this. Okay. So I think this will answer your questions. As I was telling to you previously also, target the bug bounty program. The first thing you can do is target a bug bounty program. It can be HackerOne, as I showed you. The HackerOne activity is easy. You can look towards it. It can be open bug bounty. It can be what, you don't need to do anything. You just need to sign up, like you sign up to the Facebook, and you get access to the websites. And as you sign up to a responsible disclosure program or a bug bounty program, you get the authority to find bug in each and every website registered on that bug bounty platform. As you saw on HackerOne also, there were websites like Glassdoor, right? Twitter, then Starbucks. All these big companies are there on bug bounty platform, and they perform too much bounties, like minimum 1,500 to 7,500, 9,500, $10,000. Yeah, as you saw, as I was showing you some time back, a person reporting a bug in HackerOne also got a bug bounty platform bug bounty of 7,500. So if someone is thinking that I am reporting a bug on HackerOne, why should I find a bug on HackerOne? Why not? They also have the responsible disclosures program, and they're going to pay it for you. Okay. The next thing you can do is how do you approach a target? As I told you some time back, there are two approaches. One can be target a program and find each and every bug you can, and uh, second is, as I said, find a single bug and then continue with that on every program you find. So this can be two approaches. If anyone has any other approach, also let me know. Don't expect anything. Yeah, don't expect anything is a thumb rule. First thing, if you're doing bug bounty for money, you're not getting anything from bug bounty, because when you start with bounty, you need to be very focused, and only if you'll think about money before getting it, then maybe you'll end up getting nothing. So don't expect anything when you start with it, but definitely you're gonna get paid off very well afterwards. Recon helps, Jerry. Yes, definitely Recon helps. If Recon is not done, then how will you find if other bugs in bug bounty? As Siddharth is saying, personal opinion, compared to the stable job with some companies or MNC, it's a good idea to work with BUM rather than, yeah. Thanks, Siddharth, for taking out this point. I was about to go towards that. Yeah. So most of the people, as you know, nowadays it's a pandemic situation, and most of the people are losing their job. Right. Some days back, I even heard that every one person from six people in US lost their jobs, and now the rate is more bad, I think. So if in this situation, if someone who is not losing job is we security researchers, bug bounty hunters, then security people, right? So this is the situation where you're not going to lose your job. The whole world is going online. So each and everything which was working offline till date is now going online. And then what was the next thing? Security. This thing needs security to get into touch. Yeah. So any simple website to a bank websites need to have security. And if there's no security, then the other hackers are going to hack it. Like if you have heard, I got a recording yesterday that there was a SBI call. Someone from SBI, some person was scamming from calling from SBI, and then trying to get the account details and trying to hack into it. So you would have also seen some things in these days. Yeah. And yeah, as Jerry is saying, ICICI, that the person was not having the account in ICICI, but again, that was a big fuss. Will not get into it. It will lose too much time of us. But people are trying to scam people by sending messages and different things and getting money out of them. And there where we come into picture, that we by help of different VAPT programs or different responsible disclosure programs or bug bounty programs can save these people and at the same time earn. Whole world is going into recession these days, but security researchers are not. There are many people who are working from home now. Yeah, they have different job roles. They may be a coder or anything, right? But still, if you need to earn extra money, then bug bounty. How will you do bug bounty? As I told you some step. Simple thing. You want to work 9 to 6, it's okay. You want to do bug bounty between 6 to 9, you can do it. Nobody is gonna stop you. The best thing in bug bounty is it is not time bound. You don't need to report to anyone as how much work you have done, right? It's always increases, right? If you found a bug today, you're gonna find another tomorrow and more tomorrow, more. It will not, never happen that you'll not find any bugs. It's always a ladder, and nothing like bug bounty these days. As I said, you it's a very premium job, and you can do it with other jobs too. Yes, someone is asking SQL is working in website, other bank websites too. Yeah, there are. I've found some SQL in bank websites too. I'll not disclose them, but yes, they are. Yeah, there are, Gaurav, as you said, there are many practice labs online. You can practice it on there. Um, I don't remember them immediately. I'll message you some of them definitely. Yeah. Moving back to our agenda, surround yourself with a bug bounty community. So as I said, most of the students also we have. So what I also recommend to the Infosec student is to be as active as in research community. Attend as many as conferences you can. The community itself helps you. As I told you that as you're going to upload something on a blog or a GitHub, similarly other people are also going to do it, and who is going to benefit from it? You only are going to benefit from it. So if you're surrounded with with a proper bug hunting community, then definitely you'll be updated. As whatever new work will they'll do, they'll upload it on different social media platforms, and as you refer that work, you are going to grow and get updated. Like, someone is asking, bug bounty and penetration is same. No, it's not same. Bug bounty is done for bug bounty is just find bug. In penetration testing, you need to do thorough testing. It can be exploiting the website totally with the permission of the company. But in bug bounty, you just find small bugs into it. Yeah, moving forward. So before moving forward, I like to know you some things. Like, most of the people are focused on automations these days. So don't focus totally on automation, as automation is a power, but only automation will not help you to get into bug, right? So automation is power. Then second thing is bug bounty. You can get experience or get bounty. If you're, oh, even if you didn't don't go and get any bounty, that is very rare case, but you'll definitely get some experience, which will be beneficial for you in the future career of VAPT or different things. Yeah. As I said, find a bug or find a bug chain. Yeah, finding excesses, for example, is only not enough. But if you can exploit that excesses to a subdomain takeover, or maybe code injection or something else, then that's called a bug chain. So just don't stop by getting a bug, right? You can find the bug, but how much further you can reach by exploiting that bug? It's called a bug chain. Okay. Yeah, Jerry, I know duplicates are really depressing, but duplicate doesn't mean that it's a failure. I always let everyone know that duplicate is, it's still a valid bug, right? Even if you report a duplicate bug, your reputation is going to increase, your rank is going to increase. Just that you're not going to get bounty. What do you mean by duplicate? Duplicate means just that you have found the right bug, but someone was faster than you. That's it. So what you need to do is you keep on practicing. You find duplicate bugs. More duplicates work will help you to get a valid bug soon. So maybe you're doing something which someone else is not doing. Maybe that's why you're getting duplicate, but you're finding the bug. So as you keep on practicing, multiple duplicates will also help you to get into this. As we recommend people who are doing web application security, most of the people who do web application security course towards us have a thing, right? We are getting duplicates. We are not able to find new bugs or anything. But you do not realize that only getting duplicates. Sorry, getting duplicates is not a failure. Getting duplicate is like you are getting a valid bug. That just that you are just a bit late. So if you'll keep on repeating the thing, maybe tomorrow you'll be reporting that bug before someone else, and that will not be a duplicate. So you should never get disappointed by a duplicate, because that's the first step of success in bug bounty, as it's a valid bug reporting. Yeah. So never get disappointed. So CTF, so Nihal, there are different ways of CTF. Some are based on API, some are based on web application, some are based on different things. Okay. So the experience varies from different platforms, but CTF definitely helps you to get a hands-on in bug bounty. So the more you practice on CTFs, maybe you will get more good with uh, this bug bounty. You can start with hunting for CTF on HackerOne, and then you'll find a that will help you get to find a valid bug into it. Okay, follow your master's path. Everyone here should have a master in cybersecurity, as you can gain their experience which they have got and use it further, right? Motivation. Most of the people now have different kinds of motivation. I'll just note some of them down. Okay, some of the motivations which we people are having is like we have fun, we get challenged. After getting challenged, we also get make money, then advance our career. That can be a motivation, right? Some people do it for show off, some people do it to learn a new area in IT or different things. Like these are the different things. Motivation, you need to see what keeps you motivated towards bug bounty. Just answer the question. A lot of modern web apps are moving to AWS. There is increasing difficulty to attack. Any advice? AWS, even if they are using AWS, that doesn't mean that uh, it's the it's secure, right? You can find whole buckets of subdomains on AWS. Then how it is secure? If it's like funny, like if you host it somewhere, at least you'll find a single domain. But if you're hosting on AWS, and maybe you're finding a simple bug or a simple domain, maybe a domain which is not linked to anyone, then there is a possibility that a total bucket can be found of that subdomains, and at that time your whole website can be at a risk, not just a single domain. So that's not the thing that only AWS will make it secure. But again, the way toward you look towards it, I look towards it as a positive thing, because now I have a chance to find a whole bucket on AWS, right? Hack the box is best, yes, but hack the box is good for the people who are active and who are actually having a good career or already active in this form. The people who don't have that much knowledge, I'll recommend them to start with CTF itself. Yes, if someone finds a bug and it's a valid bug, if that bug is under the, answering your question, Vivek, that if that bug is under valid scope of that website, then definitely you'll get a bounty for it. Okay, moving forward, tips and notes. Okay, most of the people, I suggest that beginners, what they do is they do for automatic scanning. What they'll do is directly, most of the students which come to me, what happens for internship and differences, when I tell them to do VAPT or start with it, what they do is scan the website with Acunetics, then different similar tools. So the kind of automation. But when we are using automation, there is a 95% possibility that it can be a false positive cases, right? So automation is a power, but at the same time, as automation can also misguide you. Yeah, Rishank, I'll get back to you. Yeah, just give me some time. Yeah, as I was going on this point. So automation is good. It's always good, but it will give you a false positive thing. So you should always not be based on automation. Connect with the community. I'll keep this repeating. Connect with the community. The more you get connected to the community, the more you will be learn in bug bounty and cybersecurity. Okay, a lot of hacking is not a one day thing. Yeah, it's not a one day thing. It can happen that uh, you start today and you stop tomorrow, then nothing will happen. Like some people took years to get into it. Everyone is not as lucky as Stock, as he found his one bug in simple thing, right? Some people need a year to get into it. Some people may get it into a week. It depends on everyone's capacity, or even a luck is involved in bug bounty, I'll say. So the first stage is don't lose your hope anytime, and the harder you will try in, and the more you'll get, more practice you'll get, and more experience you'll gain into it. Again, I'll try to like to mention here, don't don't ever mess with your what I'll say mental health with it when it comes to this. Could you please explain active scanning and passive scanning? Yeah. Active scanning and passive scanning are different things. In active scanning, what we do is there is, as you've seen, everyone here are somewhere somewhat aware, I think, about this domain. So taking an example of ping. So whenever you ping a website, it comes under active scanning. Okay. And whenever you scan a website or scan a network using a Wireshark, it is called a passive scanning. So whenever you get confused into these two, remember this example. If you send something to that website to check if that website is live or not, that comes under active scanning. And if you just sit outside and monitor the traffic of the website, that comes under passive scanning. As simple as that. So what does Nmap do, Dishank? Nmap, when we do try to do Nmap, we try to select different type of packets, right? We try to send to it through the network. Then if we are sending some packets, then what kind of scan it will be, active or passive? Someone can answer me? You know, basically how it will be passive scanning. It will always be active scan as you're sending packet, right? So you are sending packet, so they know that you are active. You are sending something to that. It's always an active scan. A passive scan is something which you do it from externally, like sitting on a road and seeing people entering into a house is a passive scanning. But entering that house to see how many people are there into it, that is called as active scanning. As simple as that. Yeah. So we are running out of time. Let's move forward. Yeah, bug bounties and mental health. As I was suggesting you now, my personal experiences is most of the people what they do is they don't find bounty and they keep on working hardly 24 hours, 48 hours and move on with this. But that's not the right approach to do it, guys. Rest is something which is important when you're dealing with bug bounties, right? If you'll not rest, how will you be able to think to find the bug? Okay. So even if you're finding a bug, that's it's okay if you're not finding a bug, but if you're not focusing on your mental health, then nothing can happen. Then you will never get a bug. Okay. So always be focused that don't ever stress yourself too much and spoil your health for getting bug bounties. Yeah, coming back to the original question, how we can get select a good program, especially for beginners. Yeah, answering to your question, Siddharth, best question, but as I recommend HackerOne, because what happens is HackerOne has different things like it has activities, then it has there are CTFs, it has basic videos too. Then you can see the company's total profile into it. So if someone is a newbie into it, if only by reading the activities in HackerOne can get an approach or can get an a gist of how things in bug bounty work, how a specific bug is reported, and how to move forward with that, taking forward that bug, right? So I recommend HackerOne, but most of them refer Open Bug Bounty or then maybe Bug Crowd. But for as you're asking me, I'll recommend HackerOne as this has other features similar to this. When it comes to Bug Crowd, there are very limited programs that they'll have 20, 30, 40 active programs working. Yeah. So maybe you'll have less scope towards it. But when it comes to HackerOne, what happens is if you find the valid bugs, you'll get a private invitation to from various websites to do VAPT on their websites or bug bounty on their websites. So that's a additional benefit with HackerOne. So you get recognition at the same time. Your recognition is you'll get in this way too by reporting a bug, right? If you get a private invitation, that itself is a what I'll say recognition stating that you have find a good bug and looking towards your achievement. They have sent you a private invitation. Yeah, if you raise exploitation unintentionally, so there is nothing like intentional or unintentional in this, Aditya. Whenever you find try to find any bug, then the thing you should look into is you should always look what is in scope and what is out of scope, right? Whenever you do bug bounty, if you're doing something which is in scope and by that if something happens, then it's none of your responsibilities. But if you're doing something which is out of scope, then definitely they can take a legal action towards you on bug crowd, I'd like to tell you that there's something called safe harbor. In safe harbor, what happens is any legal action will not be taken against you. So people who are thinking like this can go towards bug crowd and then only hunt on the websites which are under safe harbor, which will not give you any put you into any problem. Okay, so I think covering this topic, I'll have a question answer session now. If I found I'm posting in HackerOne. It's not like that. You need to Dark Aura. Your question is, if I found a bug, I'm first posting on HackerOne. You need to see that if that program is being registered under HackerOne. Okay, you need to first check that if that program is active under HackerOne and the bug you found is in scope. If it's in scope, then you can simply report it to them. CORS is course origin resource sharing. In CORS, what happens is whenever like you use Google search or different thing, so when you use Google search, it's use a API or a connection between for Google to your website. So if you are able to manipulate this cross origin resource, then that thing is called as CORS. Yeah, I got a question that where does anti-infosec fit into it? Yeah, so what do we do at anti-infosec is we give them a approach like as I told you about the web application security uh, course, that what they do, people who with no experience come towards us. I have seen, as I told, seen towards from mechanical background, then from commerce background, coming into cyber security and doing good, right? So they have enrolled to this course, and in this course what they get to do is from the basics like how a bug, what is a bug, then how to find it, to getting towards the web application security, then OWASP top 10. Everything is being taught in this course. So this is how infosec fits. Like it will give you a whole gist towards it and also help you into finding a valid bug into it. Just a second. Jerry, no. Currently, we are working on the API testing course and we'll launch it soon. Darkara, what to find? As I told you that on activity you can search that company's name, right? As we saw, search Glassdoor. Similarly, you can find it. As you search Glassdoor, you'll see the company's profile. I'll just show it to you again. Coming back to this, okay. As you can see here, in scope has been given, then out of scope domain has been given, then legal terms are being given, and also the rules have been given, which will state that the DDoS attack is not allowed, right? So if you still do DDoS attack, then maybe you can face some issues. As someone was asking me some time back, can we face legal issues? If something is done out of these rules, then definitely some actions can be taken. Yeah. Best resources to learn accesses and other OWASP thing, many things. You can join anti-infosec first reserve. I can tell you that. Then to learn accesses, there are many labs. I'll create a repository of that lab and post it on GitHub and send the link to you to see where you can find it. And other OWASP is already open community, right? So on OWASP, you can just go to OWASP website and you can find every resource there. So you can find the resource on OWASP website. What is Google Docking? Someone is questions. Good question, Dark Aura. So what happens is Google Docking is most of the people also called it Google hacking, but it's not actually Google hacking. What we do is we try to uh, search, like I want to find a responsible disclosure program of a company. Where will I find it? Right? I'll find it with using Google, right? So the process of finding it is called as sorry, Google Docking. So from Google's database or Google's links or different things, we try to find that specific thing which we have requesting. The thing is called as Google Docking. Sorry. Where was I? Next question is Suryakant is asking which course. As I said, web application security you can go for, and then certified cyber security professional too. Tools to find in APK. Yeah, first you need to install Genymotion to get into it, and then there are various tools, not a single tool to get into it. Then again, it becomes that you need to do reverse engineering, then different things. So depends what you're finding in APK. Pooja is asking, we can do a bug bounty only on a website mentioned on HackerOne or Bugcody? No, you can do bug bounty on a website which are mentioned on any one platform, which from which I, as I stated. But if that website is not been present on this platform, then you can find it on responsible disclosure program. You can just go to that website and see if there is a responsible disclosure program towards it, and you can report the bug to them. If the bug is valid, then they can send you swags, goodies, or even bounty, depending on what the company is affording. Dishank, how we found that a particular website give permission to attack and find bug in the website? Dishank, this has been done using RVDP or responsible disclosure. If that company is having a responsible disclosure program active on their website, then only you get the permission to not attack but find bugs. API testing best resource to learn. Now API testing guide has also been launched, and API top 10 has also been launched. So refer API top 10, and then you can see what you can do further. Also, iOS testing is same as Android testing, not much different. iOS testing is not much different, but just the thing is that you need to have proper iOS devices or emulators to find the what I'll say, find if the bug is right or if you are getting the right responses. Which tools can you use on HackerOne while bug finding? Alpha, you can't use any tool on HackerOne. Automated testing is a crime, and you can't say actually crime, but not a valid thing which you do whenever working on any bug bounty platform. So they don't recommend you a proper automated thing. Even if you submit them an automated list of a tool, your bug will not be reported. Yeah, we have a WhatsApp group link of a research community. I'll just post it here. Just give me a second. What if someone finds some bug on a website that don't have a bug bounty program? Yeah, Aditya, same as I said, you need to do it via responsible disclosure program. If they have responsible disclosure, then you can do it. Just finding the research link. Do's and don'ts, Nihal. Then if the do's and don'ts is as simple as that, if do only things which are mentioned in scope, and which are not mentioned in scope, out of scope, don't even go for it, because even if you go for it, you're not going to get any bounty, but at the same time you can get into trouble, and you're wasting your time too. If you know that this is not a valid thing, then why to waste time towards it? Yeah, so it's as simple as that. Yeah, Mr. Hacker, I already have a group. I'll get you added into it. The Jerry, yeah, the API course and other courses too are working on as online as well as offline thing. We have a different methodology here. We do not have anything which is recorded, right? We have we give one-on-one sessions as we are doing this session today. We do similar sessions with our students also on any course, right? So you will not get any recorded courses or anything. We don't even have PPTs or something. We just sit with you, try to hack different things, and get you hands-on towards it. So this is a training approach in our offline as well as online training. You'll not get anything which is recorded, but definitely you will get the gist of what you get into FTF training. So it will be online as well as offline. Yeah, sure. As well, I'll mail you the WhatsApp group link. Yeah, Craxa, you can start with the hacking with Windows too. Most of the tools work on Windows, and on Windows itself, you can install a virtual environment like VMware or VirtualBox, and then you can install Kali Linux on it. So you'll already be working on Windows. So that's not a big deal. And most of the tools nowadays have their Windows version too. But what happens is Windows Firewall or Windows Defender most of the time blocks different things. So avoid doing that. Sure, we have a Dakora. We can go towards. We have a Discord group too. Sorry, I skipped the name, but we can add you to that group. No worries. What are the targets we'll be testing? Is going to be live. Yeah, the testing would be live, Jerry. We as we do on different labs like BWAP or DVWA, right? So similarly, we'll do it on API labs, and then we'll also focus some bug bounty programs where we can teach them how to find API bugs towards it. Core duration and rates, Jerry. Currently, what we are doing is currently we have not disclosed the rates of as we are still working on it. But other rates are we have mentioned it on a website. I'll just give you the link towards it. You can find course rates and different things here. Yeah, bug bounty box is also good. It depends on your personal approach also. The some people are familiar with, are good with this, some are with not. So it depends on everyone's approach. As someone is good with open bug bounty and someone is not with HackerOne, it depends accordingly. So for some, currently we are not focusing on OCP currently, Jerry, as we are uh, and we at Anti-Infosec are trying to move people away from what the certification thing is. As you all of you know, most of the people know that certification gaining has been just being a certification gaining game, but not a what I'll say money gaining game. Sorry, job gaining game. So only getting a certification is not getting a job, right? So in this thing, what we do is we try to take people out of this thing and try to give them jobs only based on our certificate, but not on any part of certifications. But surely, as OSCP is a reputed course, we'll surely think about training people in them too. But anyone who does a course from here can do OSCP as well, because most of the things will be told to them or taught to them in our course itself. Siddharth, don't focus on any certification. Basically, focus mainly on gaining the knowledge. If you have proper knowledge, then why will a company not hire you? If you have mentioned the proper tools and proper things which you know in your resume, and if you even if you don't have CEH, then they are gonna call you for interview. The thing is that you need to show them in the interview that you're good at it, right? As simple as that. Currently, no free courses available. As you know, we do different workshops and different things are needed into getting the course done. But as we don't have any recorded courses, so there is nothing called free, right? We give one-on-one trainings, and that can't be free. Can we join cybersecurity without CH? Yes, CH is just as people know CH more, so they join cybersecurity with CH. But CH is never a guideline for getting into cybersecurity. I am myself, I'm not a CH certified person, but I'm still in cybersecurity, right? Similarly, you can join CH without, you can join cybersecurity without getting a CH. Uh, you find a bug in Google and they will give you a job. Why will they give you a job only by getting a bug into them, right? They already have a proper team working towards it. If that bug is that big, which will cost them too much money, then definitely you can deal with them that I found this bug, and if they found that you are qualitative enough, they'll definitely hire you for it. Yeah, our companies are also in audits. We perform audits for different bug bounty companies. Sorry, different companies. Yeah, the ones who are done with the questions can leave. The people who have questions can ask. Whoever want to get connected to WhatsApp can just chat. Chat. We have a chat option on our website. You can just ping me there. I'll send you the WhatsApp link immediately. Audits are many types, Siddharth. It's just not related to this thing. There are performance audits and different kind of audits. Like there are application audits, then red teaming or different things depends on the company's profile. Okay, so whoever wants to just join into WhatsApp group can ping on this number, and I'll just add them as that will be easy way to filter that. I can add them. So yeah, so the only technical audits, not we are a pure cybersecurity company and we deal only in technical audits, not in non-technical audits. Yes, guys, any questions related to anything? It can be a stupid question, doesn't mind. We does a company also provide placement? Yeah, we have different placement options or placement companies attached to us. We definitely give you placement assistance, but we don't give you job guarantee, as that you will be based on your interview itself, right? So we definitely give you placement assistance, but job guarantee is not something which we give. But yes, placement assistance we provide. Yes, any questions? Any more questions, guys? You can also let me know that how was the session. Was it beneficial for you? Do you need to add anything for the next workshop? Then uh, if you have any agenda for next workshop, we are also trying to uh, bring in something for a week. Maybe we'll next week we are trying to do a 3-4 sessions maybe. So if you have any suggestions for that, then you can also suggest that. Yeah, CTF is a good option. Good. Any chance you will be hiring trainers? Yeah, we do hire trainers, Siddharth. Basically, our first priority is hiring someone from our trainees itself, because we know how these people work, right? We are aware of you. Though whenever we try to hire someone, the first priority is our trainees, and then only we try. So, and if you are working in a company, any company, does is whenever they're trying to get someone get to a position, they always see for internal hiring first and then external hiring. Similarly, we also do the same. We also first hire internally and then externally. Jerry, we have worked on a course called Bug Bounty, but we have just not made it live, right? It because what happens is for Bug Bounty there are some prerequisites that people should know how the bug works, and how different um, bugs are being performed. So as you say, charge per participant 500, that can be good, but if there can be a mixed audience, like people like who you're already active in cybersecurity and people who are not active, then if you utilize time more in telling people what the bug is or different things are, then it is not fair for other people too, right? So we have launched a course similar to that. We are just making it live in some time. Maybe you'll find it on the website. But yeah, we can think on the boot camps, but again, that will have a something which is called as prerequisite, because as you know, we always on online sessions we have time limitations, and that's where the main crunch is. Okay, malware analysis and threat hunting, and we can do that too. Okay, Keshav, that also is a good topic. Internal and external audits ratio. Basically, internal audits and external audits can be referred as black box and white box, right? So if you ask someone from outside to test your company, is external audit, and internal audit is the team which you have hired to do internal audits. So as simple as that. Yeah, correct. Will we are working on another session too. Let us know if you want the same bug bounty session or further parts towards it. Nihal, you can work on the pirated or community version too, but the results which you'll get in a what will say purchased version is not the same as you get in the pirated version. But to start with, community edition is also good. There's not a big deal currently to buy on a starters level, but further if you work for big companies or to do audits or different things, then it's always suggested to have a purchased pub suit. Yeah, it is worth looking towards reverse engineering if you are good at coding, Siddharth. If you have good idea of coding and different things, you can definitely look towards reverse engineering as a career. If not, then doesn't matter. You can do as a VAPT or bug bounty hunter or anything like that. No, Aditya, Bubsuit is not totally free. It has two versions. One is community version and another is pro. Community is free for all and pro is not. Yeah, Jerry, IoT hacking can also be a thing, but it's difficult to do it on an online platform. But let's see, we can plan that too. Gidra is very good tool for reverse engineering. Yes, Rishabh, you can always go for Gidra. No, yeah, Dr. Farfar is done now. No more Dr. Farfar. Yeah, any question? Any more question, guys? No, it is not necessary to have a certification of OSCP if you have full knowledge and if you can prove yourself in the interview. OSCP certification is only required for someone who goes into managerial level, right? So if you have knowledge, then getting certification is not a big deal, right? It's just that simple. So even if company asks you to get certification done that time, they'll hire you because they know that you have a knowledge of OSCP, and you can just get certificate done. Certification will not take much time. Yeah, I found many bugs, but currently, as we are short of time, maybe I'll cover them in next time. If anyone was not registered here and want to get connected, can also register now for the workshop. We'll add you to the list and send you the different resources which I have. Yeah, Mr. Hacker, I'll add you once the session is ended. To become a bug bounty hunter, Satyajit, is not a difficult thing. As I said, you need to follow one of the approaches of two. As you said, you have found got two Hall of Fames, right? So what kind of bug did you find when targeting that two Hall of Fame? Pick up that bug and try to find the same bug in each and every websites you get. As simple as that. Definitely you'll get a bounty soon. Yeah, and the role of CTF in bug bounty, CTF will help you to find bounties. Yeah, CTF is a mini bug bounty thing which will help you to get the approach how a bug bounty platform works. So that's the way how CTF will help you into getting bug bounty. Yeah, you can get many things on bug bounty official site, Portsvegas website. No, Rishabh, both things are not similar, they are different. As Siddharth said, yes, practice makes you perfect. The more you practice on CTFs, the more bug bounties you will get. That's the basic difference between CTF and bug bounty. Yeah, so any questions, guys? We have already crossed 1.5 hours plus. I hope I have not bored anyone and tried to answer each and every question. I hope all your questions are answered. Yeah, any questions or should we end this here? Okay. So thank you for getting connected, guys. Meet you soon. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.